I'm Dane Rose. As I head into the first month, the first half of January in 2026, I take this moment to reflect on both my ongoing iterations in relationship to Lazaris and the material, which of course mirrors the ongoing iterations with me and my life. I've just turned 51 years old, and this last year has been marked by, I would say, a pattern of echoes. Moving into my 30s and going on into my 40s, I would say the biggest emergence was in the arena of betrayal and discovering the external shadow. The betrayals of my government, the betrayals of my family, the betrayals of concept synergy, the betrayals of my therapists. Whatever it was, a big part of that also the betrayal of women in relationship, or friends for that matter. So basically piercing or lifting the veil and finding the hypocrisy, finding the insanity, finding the shame, finding the ugliness that is out there. And this has its own trauma, its own crisis. One face of the crisis is a crisis of maturity, because in Erich Fromm's book Escape from Freedom, he highlights the comfort, the luxury of being able to turn power over to another person, to find someone, anyone, an AI, anyone at all that knows what's going on, that is going to do the right thing, that says the right thing. And now I just need to listen to that voice, and everything will be well, right? And I feel that pull enormously as, I would say, one is as an empathic sensitive to, in the foundation of being an empathic sensitive is the small infant child who has learned that my parents are going to hit me, are going to shock me, are going to hate me. And there's some pattern around this that if I can just figure out what it is, then I will escape the pattern. And so what is it, right? What's the pattern, and how do I escape it? And what I learned was ignore what my parents said, ignore their philosophy, but try to track their emotional waves and not be the one that was the easiest one to be lashed out at whenever their shame or anger or frustration reached a certain peak, right? Because that was the actual pattern. The actual pattern was they would do things that would increase their shame and outrage to a certain peak. And then whoever was available who couldn't fight back would get a download where they would discharge that rage, that shame, most conveniently on their children. And so I wanted to understand that and massage that peak lower so that it didn't burst, right? Or not be there. Or, when I had more strength and clout in the relationship, point it out, say, okay, the wave is peaking, right? You understand that if it keeps rising at this threshold, right around here, it's going to break the dam. And you're going to look around to see, who you can spill all that water on, because you can't contain it at that point. And I think the human identity is very much like a river with a container and a breach point. And in that paradigm, everyone has a breaking point, the point where the water rises above the banks of the river, the container, and then it just spreads all over everything. And so that's the way it has been throughout much of history. The challenge is that I don't know if it's in political correctness or what the motivation is. There is a blackout. There is a blockade on the reality of this information. Nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that, yes, this does have a kind of a shape, a meandering shape, and the energy does flow through this shape. But if the energy reaches a point where this shape cannot hold the energy, then all bets are off. Then there is a disbursement of that energy, and it's going to flood over anyone and anything that's in the vicinity, in the same way that happens when a river rises above its banks. And and that cringe moment of understanding and waiting, like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. I'm completely and utterly alone. I've got to just weather this block, this mass of water, this mass of violence that's just going to come towards me. And it can't be stopped. That becomes a genesis for what do I have to do to avoid that, right? And so it's sensitivity, it's empathy in the sense of I'm tuning in. Who's feeling, okay, that's their breaking point, that's their breaking point, that's their breaking point. How can I avoid being hit amidst all of these people that, there's two reasons why the violence flows towards the most sensitive and the most vulnerable. Right? A bully in school will tune in to the most scared, sensitive, small kid to bully. And one reason for that is that, and I'm just following the flow of all these connections to acknowledge the fact that we're in a multidimensional ecology, and we like to collapse that down into very narrow lines. But if we look closely, it's much more of a circular relationship between all of these things and all of these people and all of these energies. And so I'm allowing my voice to kind of meander around and cover the circular territory, rather than following the discipline of getting to the point. But in that sense, the bully picks the most vulnerable child in part because mirror neurons connect us to whoever we're paying attention to. And so a bully has always been terrorized into complete and utter helplessness at home. The biggest bully in school has been utterly shamed and decimated as an identity at home, usually by dad, but it doesn't really matter by whom. There is a crushing helplessness that is induced, and this rises up, this memory of helplessness rises up in the bully, and whenever it reaches a certain point, they've just got to give that energy to someone else. And the smallest, most sensitive, helpless child is A, the child that can't fight back. B, it's the child that is unlikely to be popular. Because what the psyche does in culture, what humans do in culture, is when their most vulnerable parts are shattered, and there's no solution. We try to get rid of that part. The part of us that cries and cries and then is humiliated for crying and nobody does anything about, we try to get rid of that part. Where do we put it? We put it into the human shadow, and we try to keep it at bay with contempt, with fear, with get away from me. And so the most unpopular kid at school is the part that is most unpopular within the human psyche. The sensitive one, the small one that can't fight back, that can't stop the tears. It's usually the truth teller. So it's expedient to pick on the smallest, least popular person who can't fight back. So there's expediency, but it's much deeper than that, because everyone, particularly the bully, knows that small part in themselves. And they can't stand it. They can't stand seeing that part. And one of the things that happens in transference is the migration, and this is the basis for intergenerational abuse and power dynamics. The transference between the helpless one that dissociates and cannot maintain a coherent identity in the face of overwhelming force, traumatic force, and the bully or dominant one that can maintain its identity, right? In other words, when you have a 32-foot giant weighing 2 tons and you're an infant, and they're determined that you are going to get this, and this is the way it is, and shut the fuck up, and don't you dare look at me. When you've got a 32-foot giant weighing several tons shaking you, shouting at you, and you see the intensity that they're going to get their way, whatever that is, however crazy it is, they're going to get their way. It's too much. And so you dissociate. I can't occupy this position. It's like standing there with a BB gun and having 10,000 drones surrounding you on all sides. Like, you can't defend that position, whatever it is. And whether it's a dissociation, a death, a surrender, I'll go crazy, just tell me what to do. There is a dissociation from that state of overwhelming helplessness, terror, and trauma. But the ego needs an identity, a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. It needs an identity. And so the question is, well, what is that identity? What is it? And the strongest identity in the field is the identity of the abuser, the dominant one, the bully. And so what happens is the ego vacates the identity of the recipient of traumatic abuse and identifies with the abuser. And you can actually see this in the power dynamics on porn videos. It's if you watch a certain subset of porn videos, you will find an interesting identity migration. So if there is respect and dignity, etc., there may be a very shy, a very sensitive identity in the woman. But this identity, this shy, this sensitive identity, or this very present identity is not going to survive a porn movie. Why? Well, a porn movie is the exact opposite of getting to know the feelings, the thoughts, etc., etc. And so there's simply no way for the most sensitive personas to show up for a porn movie and have anything other than complete and utter helplessness, despair, etc. So what replaces the sensitive identity is an identification with masculine aggression. And so you'll find the woman who has shifted identity in a porn movie like this. Pound that pussy, you know you want it, get that pussy, pound that thing, I'm a dirty slut, whatever. And what she's doing is she's saying, I don't want to feel small, helpless, violated, unworthy, whatever it is that might come up in that persona. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel small and helpless. So I'm going to dissociate from being small and helpless in a woman's body. And I want to feel powerful. So I'm going to associate with the masculine energy that's fucking me. That's a powerful energy. That's got integrity. I like it. Now I feel clear. I feel decisive. I feel assertive. I feel powerful. I want that pussy pounded. And so this is how the intergenerational abuse pattern occurs. The 2-year-old being shouted at is too difficult to process, to grieve, to identify with. So there's a dissociation. Dissociation, sociopathic. Sociopathic, dissociation. Empathic means association. If someone can empathize with a small child and be present with them fully as they are being violated, they are not sociopathic. And they will not act to escalate the pain of the 2-year-old. But if someone can't associate, it's just too much. As it is too much for a traumatized 2-year-old. I can't stay in my body around this. I dissociate. Like, why do rape victims leave and float above their body? Because they can't process it. Why did a number of people molested by pedophilic priests, why did they forget about it? Literally forget about it. You had men working out in the gym and buff and all this stuff, literally blocked their entire life out. They knew they needed to be tough on some level, and so they were, very macho, buff men. And then when the news came out about the molestations and and it was on the news, some of these men began to have memories, and they utterly collapsed because now they could associate. The power dynamic had shifted enough with the public knowing it, with it being on the news, that they could process at least enough to know that they were a victim. Absolutely devastating. Helpless, small, helpless, terrified, small. And the world punishes that helplessness and smallness. It doesn't love it. It doesn't help it. It's incredibly painful to understand that. It's incredibly painful to see that. And yet there it is, right? Again and again and again. And so when the ego cannot process a crushed, traumatized pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being, it's just so difficult. Near-death experiencers talk about this when they think of coming back into the body. They don't want to do it a lot of the time. And when they do, the experience of that magnificent transcendence of just being beyond the body. And then they come on and, as they'll sometimes say, put on this meat jacket, and it's broken here and it's broken there. It's like, oh, this is like going from expansive heaven into some slime with steel pins, and it's just horrible to have to assume that limitation. And so I don't want to be associated with that pain. I want to be out there. I want to be big. I want to be the one saying what's done, right? And so the pattern that is strong and stable is the pattern of the abuser, of the perpetrator, of the one initiating the trauma. And the ego is not interested in happiness or even pleasure to a large extent. It's the ego's fundamental drive is coherent identity. I am this. I am right. Like, why does the ego want to be right even when it destroys a marriage? Because the ego doesn't care about marriage. It cares about stable identity. And the more trauma the ego has experienced, the more it holds on to this. This is who I am. This is the way it is. This is my religion. This is this. It doesn't matter what the shape is. We can see this with the attachment to a cult, to culture, that is literally killing its people. 95% of all cultures in human history are dead. They're extinct. They died. They didn't protect their people. They led their people down the wrong path, the path towards death and extinction. And 95% of the cultures alive today will be dead within 10,000 years. Our culture is not leading us down the right path either, statistically speaking, but we cling to it. It's normal. This is what we do, even if it kills us, even if it's miserable, even if it's depressing. And it's important to understand that the ego's primary need is not to feel good. most egos do not feel good most of the time. Their need is for control and stability of pattern. And the one who abuses them and succeeds has the greatest control of the pattern. And so the dissociation is from one's traumatized self. The association is with the traumatizer. I need to stop being the weak, small child who's innocent and right and all that, has feelings. And what I need to be is a strong, violent, dominant energy that wins. That's what I need, because then I exist. And that's the fundamental goal, the primary need of the ego is to exist. And so all of this to say that individuals looking to stabilize, looking to attach more to their identity, the I that attaches to a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. It says, this is me, this is us. It's easier to hold an identity in a group than it is alone, and so we have to have groups. And of course, our group is different from the other groups. That is the basis of identity. How can I have a clear pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being if it's exactly like every other pattern? So we've got to be different. And then you're different and we're different, and our group has to stay. Yours can die, but ours has to stay. And so now we need to fight to defend our space, our identity. This is the fundamental architecture of the ego, and it creates a competition and evolution of cultural shapes in different hierarchies of competence. But it's certainly clear that groups that stick together and are loyal, whether they're political groups or otherwise, do better, survive better than lone individuals, right? And so then we have this, are you with us or are you against our group, right? And you know, the same is true in the Lazaris community. It is absolutely taboo to question anything about Lazaris. Why? I mean, that doesn't seem like it adds up. You've said that, but that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would happen if that were true. Right? Do you care to elaborate or question that? No. Right? A Christian cannot question God or Jesus or the church or a priest. Right? You literally saw in Mea Culpa Maxima, the documentary of the survivors of male sexual survivors of the priests within the Catholic Church. And the saddest thing was to have one's own parents punish you, disbelieve you, discredit you, because they did not want to challenge the identity of the church, which was linked with God, the ultimate power. And so you saw parents literally knowing at some level that their child was correct, but preferring to betray their own children and give their own children to pedophilic priests to shame and spiritually abuse, rather than to stand up for their children against the church. This dynamic is deep, and we see it today in the tension between Trump and Congress, right? Where Trump has a lot of power in different forms. He has the power of fear and retribution. He is well known for taking revenge. That's his philosophy, to take revenge on anyone who disagrees with him or whatever. In any way, right? Forever, right? And the other, the other thing is popularity and the ability to sway and popularity, and then possibly. So there's power there, and it's like, well, I've got the power. You've traditionally said you believe this, 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 and this. But how much of that will you throw away to do it my way? How much of your values will you throw away? How much of your power will you give away to have my protection and not be my target? And so, and you see, Congress not really functioning as Congress. Now, these are grown men and women. Some of the, quote, most powerful people in the land. And it's a combination of, this is our tribe, you've got to be with us or against us, but it's also Trump's a very big bully in that dynamic. And of course, we can infer from that Trump is a very big victim of bullying, right? It's an absolutely horrific feeling to be young Trump, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old Trump in that household, in that family. And of course, no one came to Trump's rescue. No one. Not the employees, right? The employees worked for Dad, and they understand that if they stick up for the kid, they get punished, they get fired. Right? I had my one case in my entire life of not being paid, running a business, was a father who wanted to sell the idea that his son was a piece of shit. Absolute piece of shit, he said. He's complete garbage. But I want you to hire him, he said. I want you to hire him. He's complete garbage, I know. You don't have to pay him a penny. I'll pay his salary. And, and then, he'll have a job, right? So I met with the kid. The kid was great. And I realized that the real danger, the biggest danger by far to the kid, was his father, who needed to maintain the idea that this kid was a piece of shit. And so I sided with the kid. I said, I don't need your money. The kid's fine. I will give him a job. It doesn't, I don't need your money. This father refused to pay his bill, right? To punish me for siding with his son, for actually seeing and valuing his son. So that earned me the one time that a client didn't pay their bill. Why the one time? Because I do good work on time, ahead of schedule. Why wouldn't you pay your bill and clear contracts? So I understood the dynamic. I understood that I was not going to be paid because I stood up for the son. Now, that is not an invention. That dynamic of a father determined to portray his son as nothing and then pretend to rescue him this is the same racket that goes on with many men and women. I met an American the other day, and he said, "Oh, she's such an idiot, complete loser. You know, don't even mention it. She's nuts. She's a complete idiot. But you know, a woman, got to play along. You know, just she's going to completely fuck this up, but we'll pretend she can be a businesswoman." Now, to be fair, many people do play along with that role. They understand that their role is to be stupid, and that's their job, is to be stupid. It's not always clear who writes the first part of that contract. Does someone say, "I've got some money, I'm looking for a stupid bimbo who will be a stupid bimbo to lose money so that I can feel superior"? Or does someone say, "I'm a stupid bimbo, I'll be a stupid bimbo, I want someone to take care of me"? Or do they just match up? It's not always clear, because in my own dynamics around that, sometimes if you take off the contract, someone says, "Oh, thank you so much, I don't have to play that contract. It's not the contract I want to play, I was just scared." And so the power dynamic has shifted. But other people will say, "Don't you dare, don't you dare, I'm a stupid bimbo. Don't you try to treat me as intelligent." My favorite in that domain are the submissive women who are utterly and completely submissive until you tell them to be powerful. No, who the fuck are you? I'm a submissive. You think you're going to tell me what to do? Go fuck yourself. To watch a submissive abuse seeker flip into contempt, hostility, determination, and go her own way. If you don't abuse me the way that I want, go fuck yourself. I'm going to find someone who will. And there's a lot of men out there who are willing to abuse me, so go fuck yourself. Suddenly you realize, oh, that's who's in charge. I mean, the game was, right, you'll do anything, you'll do that, you love me, whatever you want me to do, whatever. No. That's the script. The game is, you're in charge. You're going to find someone to play that role. And if I don't want to, well, I'm history. And so that's quite a wake-up call, right? And that was, the first. The first woman that taught me that was the woman who was training me. She would give me smiles, sex, praise, laughter, and quality time. All of my drugs, all of what I want. She'd give it all to me, as long as I put her down, as long as I criticized her, as long as I made sarcastic jokes at her expense. That's what aroused her. And I was alarmed by this trend. And so I suggested we go to therapy, because I wanted her to treat me well, to smile, laugh, have sex, praise me, and give me quality time, when I told her how beautiful she was. But that never happened, right? To get what I wanted, the price was abusing her in some way. And then everything was fine. She dumped me within minutes of the therapist agreeing with me, and me saying, I'm not going along with this. I understand that you enjoy being put down and sarcasm and all that, it just doesn't feel loving to me. You like it, but like I have to deal with this schizophrenia that I love you, and to make you happy, I've got to hurt you in some way. I don't see how that goes together. And I also don't see how it's really loving of you to demand that from the man who loves you. Like, you know, if I was to go to it, just imagining that there was actually a healthy parent out there, and I was to go to that parent and just say, I'll do my homework, I'll do this and this and this, I'll say you're great parents, but only if you hit me, only if you tell me I'm a piece of shit. Otherwise, I'm not going to do any of that. No, nothing of that. And of course, there are kids that do that, and there's parents in those loops, but not a really healthy one, right? So there's tons of that going around. But having spotted that trend on both employees and lovers, I would guess that we're dealing about 23% of the population strongly in this archetype. Having spotted this trend, I still get offers to do whatever you want, use me however you want, whatever, all that type of thing. And all I have to do to end it immediately is ask them to read a book on self-love. Honey, I'll do whatever you want. Okay, read a book on self-love. Oh, do we have to? Well, I thought you were going to do anything I want. Well, you're no fun, right? I'll find someone else who wants to abuse me. And I don't think it splits, you know, male, female that different, but it's the most effective way to cut an abuse pattern in half in just a second is just to ask someone to do something that makes them independent, powerful, increases their self-esteem and self-love. Then you learn who's in charge, and it's never you. It's any number of manipulative programs. It's just not you. It never was, and they're stubborn, right? You know, because it's a large demographic. I'll usually, you know, I'm doing dating at the moment. And so I'll email them a book. If I see they're in this demographic, I'll email them a book. And where are you? Have you read a single page? Oh gosh, oh my goodness, I don't have the time. I have the time to be weak. I have the time to do all of this, and I have the time to participate in demeaning sexual orgies. But, read a book or make my own money, or, oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm just a dumb person waiting to be abused. And so I actually feel mild hostility at this point with that game because it's not that I wouldn't mind it if it was honest. Like, I'll do whatever you want. Great. I'd like you to go to the gym. I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to read this. I'd like you to practice these things and let me know how it works. Let me know if it improves, doesn't, why not? That's fun. That's fun. But you have complete power to do whatever I want, and what I want is to be hurt and then blame you or make you feel guilty or whatever. It's very irritating. So this is all in that general thread of finding the veil. So this would be lifting the veil of the pretend submissive. Now this also strengthens something Lazaris said, that the victim has more power than the persecutor, because the persecutor needs someone to be a victim. The victim does not need anyone to persecute them. They can just imagine it. And on that, in this area, I agree with Lazaris, because a submissive I've never encountered. Well, that's actually not true. It's not true. Submissives will sometimes do healthy things that I want in order to get the hook in. But then once the hook is in, once the leverage is established, then they will only give what I want if I do something that they've wanted, which usually is some form of power play that they enjoy. And they really don't give a shit about whether I like it or not. It's all about them. And so, that basically lifting one veil after another of these things has been a big theme over, the last 10 years or whatever, and getting stuck, my therapist isn't a therapist. They're just using me to do this and this and this. That's not what's good for me. Da, 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 da. What's going on, right? This woman doesn't love, what's going on? So that's kind of seeing the shadow out there. What is the biggest theme in the last year is eating the shadow. So I've been seeing it out there again and again and again, and just wringing my hands, like, poor me. Another one, right? Just, my goodness. And that's all true, right? Another fucked up, hypocritical spiritual teacher, another book, in this paragraph they say this, and then 10 paragraphs later they say the exact opposite. And they don't call themselves on it. You said go with the flow, and then you said do this. You have to do this with discipline. Well, which is it? Right? And so the whole world just kind of falls apart, including all the power structures, etc., as these veils are lifted and reveal, cruelty, insanity, stupidity, schizophrenia, trauma, running away from trauma, doing the exact opposite of what needs to be done. And I think it's good preparation to see all of this thing. It's very easy to see in others and out there, because you can stand back and see the pattern. And so this last year, I have been having one experience after another of realizing, oh my God, that's me. That's me. Rewarding people for treating me badly, not treating, that's me. Not in the same way, right? Which is why it's easy to hide, but, okay. I'm doing that as well. Dissociating from that painful, traumatized little boy and trying to be, I'm doing that as well. I refused to have kids, for example, because I watched my parents give just tremendous amounts of hate and cruelty and lies. And I've watched myself and all my siblings just dealing with that. Suicidal pain in 3 out of 5. Depression in varying ways, 100%. Bipolar movement, 35%. You've got a small sampling of kids that have received this abuse treatment, which includes being given Lazaris tapes and told that you create your own reality, we don't, you do, right? So create us differently, and the whole racket, right? And so, I knew how soul-crushing it was, and I watched my siblings just, going crazy to deal with this. But I also understood that in a culture that couldn't even admit this, like this is going on. Your parents are doing your best. Don't, just forgive them. Forgive your parents. Whatever it was, so that nobody had to do anything. Like when you're surrounded by sociopaths who are feeding their children alive to this system, grinding up everything healthy and everything, and they know it, and they won't even look, let alone help one fucking child out of this hellhole. Do your energy, do everything except protect fucking children from sociopathic abuse. And then you realize, heaven help you if the government tries to intervene. I mean, which is worse? Like literally, would one government agency be better or worse than 2 incestuous uncles? The 2 incestuous uncles may be better than how the US government could respond to incest. We're not going to bother understanding trauma or attachment theory or the shame and trauma of watching your parents be arrested or having sirens. We are so fucked up. We are so committed to cruelty. We can't even bother to understand the psychology of children as we do the right thing. It's just like, what do you do? Well, I didn't have children, right? Because I don't want to do that to a child, number one. And number two, with so much collusion around me and an entire culture that's doing everything possible to reenact that dynamic, beginning with profound emotional literacy, beginning with traumatizing the kids at school, whatever it is. I mean, we're committed to this. Deep intergenerational abuse cycles, no matter what. We are not going to do anything to stop it. And if we do, we're going to make sure that it's worse, right? We'll rescue your child by traumatizing them even more than at home. We'll do that because that fits the narrative of traumatizing children. We just won't do anything that actually helps the kid. It's just so nuts. And the court case is no different. Lawyers are some of the most sociopathic bullies of their clients imaginable. Anyway, it's so I of course didn't have kids. So I managed to find employees to play the kid dynamic. And I just felt like, gosh, this fucking shame is going to play out. Do the fucking Lazaris shame tapes? Fine. $100,000 of therapy? Fine. Right? Promise that these crystals are going to blast the neighborhood into light and blah, blah, blah. So spend what? $20,000 on a concept synergy crystal. Fine. You do whatever you fucking want. This pattern is going to play out. And it's mind-numbing to watch the extractive determination and the system is always the same. I get rewarded for playing out the pattern. I get punished, and no takers for not playing out the pattern. Right? The lover who isn't getting the shame and abuse she wants, off she goes to find someone else to abuse her. Right? The employee that isn't getting shouted at, off they go. Or the work stinks. You have no idea how strange it is. Like, I tried video cameras on the job site, so then they sabotaged those. I tried a checklist. I tried bonuses, big bonuses if you do basic things like put the tools away at the end of the day. Big bonuses. I tried ideas on the spot, like you come up with an idea to improve things, I'll give you $20 cash, because they liked cash, right? So $20 cash. Okay, no ideas. Read this book. No, we're not going to read it. How about I pay you $30 an hour to read this book? Oh, boss, we can't do it. We don't have time. How about you use the first hour working for me? Of the 8 hours you work every day, how about you use that to read this book? Oh, we can't do it. We can't. We can't. Boss, please, please, please. We want to be dumb. We want to be poor. Don't you understand? We're poor. Oh. Like, gosh, you son of a bitch. You are. You're fucking poor. You're dumb. I agree. I give in. You're dumb. You're poor. Go fuck yourselves. Sweep the fucking driveway. You win. You happy now? Yes, they're so happy. They're so happy. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. That's what we wanted, to be told what to do. We did. Yes, we need you there. Ah, of course, boss. We'll do it right away. Every fucking day. Every fucking day. Still need to sweep the floor. Still need to pick up the garbage. Still need to do exactly what you did yesterday, right? I disappear for 2 days, 3 days. No. Can't do it. Can't do it. Oh, it's just sickening. And so this is the rage that's been building up is, God damn it, you are clever. I can't outsmart you, right? I cannot outsmart a woman that's determined to be bullied. I'll watch it before my eyes. I'll praise her. I'll say she's amazing. She immediately does the exact opposite. That's funny. Positive psychology says when you praise someone, they do more of it. No. So I criticize her. She immediately treats me well for a day. That's funny. That's the way it works. Could you rewire that? No. So anyway, this has been, I would say, my decade of confusion, exhaustion, martyrhood, disgust, insanity, and just, I mean, I literally flew around the world to try and find, like, anywhere in the fucking world. No. And I would talk with the business owners over here. Is it better over here? No. It's absolutely terrible. It can be done. I have one fantastic employee out of 300. One. He's now rich, works 25 hours a week, has a great family, owns 2 houses, could retire tomorrow. He is the only employee out of 300 that didn't fight me. When I gave him a book, he read it. When I told him do this and this and this, he did it. When I said, I'll give you a raise, He did it, and he got a raise, right? He's doubled his salary, got bonuses. It's like he's the, you know, the white crow that proves they could all have done it. They could all be rich, every one of them. But no, you know. So this so this has been my hell, trying to figure out, could I trick or manipulate anyone at all to being happy, successful partners in something that felt remotely aligned with kind of a best practice, and being told to go fuck myself again and again and again and again and again, and being punished in direct proportion to the amount that I tried to change it. But rewarded, I mean, it's the easiest fucking thing in the world to make tons of money in America. Easiest fucking thing in the world. I don't want tons of money. I want healthy dynamics. Hardest thing in the fucking world. Too busy to have a healthy dynamic. Oh, terrible. Can't do it. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I haven't worked this all out of my system, as you can tell, because it's just so mind-numbing. How hard people are working to fail. And man, if they don't succeed one way or another. And the guy that, the one guy in my entire 33 years of hiring people, who's now rich, whatever, all he did was, whenever I said, read this, do this, study this, is he did it. And his life got better and better and better and better. And he says I'm the best boss that he's could ever imagine and has ever had. And I am not a great boss at the moment, because I've just been worn down in so many ways. So I'm actually, you know, maybe 7 out of 10 at best. Maybe relatively speaking, I'm a great boss, but you know, it's not. I haven't had enough experience being a great boss, because all of my employees train me to be a shitty boss, and are very unhappy when I try to delegate or promote them or whatever. And so, you know, there it is. So eating all that, like, I haven't eaten all of that for sure. I'm still martyred and fed up with all of that. But this whole last year, I've been, oh my God, I see a part of me like that. Oh my God, I'm doing that. Oh my God. I'm doing that in the subtle echo, in the silence level. I'm doing that energetically. But then I'm dissociating from that, and then I'm doing the opposite overtly, which is the whole thing that I've been criticizing concept synergy, my parents, you name it. The whole thing is, you're doing this with the left hand, right? And this with the right hand. It's the exact opposite. This with the left hand, this with the right hand. You know, where's the integrity? Where's the integration? You can't publish a tape on Dominion and then be one of the most dominating companies around. It doesn't add up, right? So So among my many opposites that I've been eating, I heard that phrase, to eat your own words. It's a healthy diet to eat one's own words. So I have been saying words, but for the life of me, I haven't been seeing what to eat. So what do you mean? I do everything that I say I'm going to do. I don't lie. I get my, I'm not like that, right? But it's not true, right? I do it in other ways. Or at the very least, what I've been discovering is echoes where I feel like doing exactly what they're actually doing. And then I'm overriding it because I'm terrified of being abandoned or whatever it is. And so I think, well, maybe they're just not as terrified as me, right? They feel like being lazy and dishonest and crappy, and they do it. I feel like doing that, and then I think that's not right. And then I override that. And so maybe they're just less frightened. And so I look good to myself, but I'm just scared, right? And so that's been the big theme. And as part of that, one of the most controversial things is this. Here's the riddle. Lazaris has been saying things like, it's easier to succeed than it is to fail, which sounds like what I was saying to my employees, right? That blah, 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 blah. Do you create reality and all this stuff, which again, sounds like what I was saying to my employees. One of the common themes and one of the reasons why relationships within the Lazaris community don't work very well is a lot of people copy Lazaris in his protocols of relating to Lazaris friends, which are not that great protocols. Monologues rather than dialogues, lectures rather than, So, in other words, someone with a strong relationship with Lazaris statistically treats other people like Lazaris treats them. And it's not a great roadmap. And I'm part of that pattern. And so, so Lazaris is saying all this stuff, and then I look around the Lazaris community in my own life and Jach's life, and I think, bullshit. Why is nobody? Why, in fact, why would I rather date a non-Lazaris friend than a Lazaris friend? Why do I feel that way? Like why like bullshit, right? So then that creates this this basis then for criticizing, like, that's not true, absolutely not true. That, like, there's too much hypocrisy, Lazaris. Show the evidence within the community in some way, and then. And isn't it funny, tragic, funny, puzzling? Jordan Peterson writes this fantastic book, 12 Rules for Life, and it's all about personal responsibility. And then he gets addicted to benzodiazepines and can't function for days and blah, blah, blah. And his wife gets cancer and nearly dies, and his daughter nearly dies without this 100% meat diet, and da-da-da. And he has to ship off to Russia to get off this thing, and then soon he's suffering again, and his daughter's talking about dark, evil forces. So this is how you take personal responsibility. And then you have Jordan Peterson talk about you have to have respect for the institutions. Who are you, to come in and change everything? You have respect for your government, your infrastructure, your universities. These you can't just throw this stuff out, just invent stuff and all this stuff. Like, have respect for tradition and stuff. Jordan Peterson went on about this for some time, and then his government tried to harass him. His psychological board tried to kick him out of his license. His university tried to kick him out of his job. The New York Times went after him and did a hit piece. And now you have complete schizophrenia, because Jordan Peterson's message to you: respect your tradition, respect the institutions, don't think you know everything. And do your job, take on responsibility, show respect for universities. What does he actually do? The New York Times is full of shit. The university system is fucked up. You should respect universities, but mine is terrible. My government is completely fucked up. And the psychological board, they're ganging up on me, and now dark forces are after, right? And so, which is it? And this is. I'm not picking on Jordan at all. I'm saying that this is pretty much the pattern, because this whole channel does exactly what that little joke is with Lazaris and concept synergy. You create your own reality. Let's hire a security guard to keep out Lazaris friends. Publish about Dominion, and then let's ban people on the forum if they say anything we don't want to hear, right? So it's the exact same pattern. And what's hilarious and terrifying, depending on your state of mind, is that everyone is doing it. It's very, very hard to find anyone at all who is not doing this with the left hand and this with the right hand, including me. My favorite thing is to write books about the thing that, for the most part, is, I'm throwing my hands up around, right? Like my biggest goal right now is 10x relationships, to have relationships that are 10 times better than average. And I have proof of concept, right? Multiple people doing specific protocols, and they say again and again, wow, this is 10 times more growth than I've ever experienced in my whole life. This is 10 times more amazing. This conversation is 10 times better than the conversations that I'm having with this and this, and you know me 10 times more than anyone else knows me, and this and this and this, and all this exciting stuff, right? So there's proof of concept, there's detailed protocols. They work 70% of the time to 85% of the time. They work 95% of the time with attuned people that want that, but that's incredibly difficult to find. And so, having established proof of concept, protocols, experienced tastes of it again and again, what do I find but that nobody wants to do it? Nobody. Nobody wants to do it. This is what works. Okay, we're not going to do that. How about this? How about this? Well, I haven't had good experience with that protocol. I don't think it works. Yeah, but I'm available to do it with you. I know, lots of people are. But what are the odds? Like, you've been doing that protocol your whole fucking life. Has it ever worked? How many times has it worked? Why do you want to do that? This works 80, 90% of the time. No, not going to do it. It's weird. Meaning it's different. Of course it's different. That's why it works. Right? So anyway, I'm a raving maniac around this stuff because you can see, at least I see how bitter I am. I see how annoyed I am. I see how impatient I am. I see this and that. And so I'm going to teach 10x relationships while being bitter and annoyed with most people in the world. So you see the joke, right? It's a joke, right? What to do with it? What to do with that joke? And I do not know. I just know that this year, 50 to 51, I just turned 51. The two biggest themes are understanding how regressed I am emotionally, psychologically. Like literally, I'm 5 to 12 years old most of the time. And on bad days, I'm 1 to 2 year old and absolutely terrified reliving trauma. The trauma being hated and raged at and isolated with 2 sociopathic regressed parents who, that's their deal. And so that's one thing. So I'm regressed, and regressed, traumatized children and teenagers don't want to do things, right? And so, like I'll say, okay, I'm regressed. What should I do about that? And then it's like, I'm regressed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to look at that. No, I don't want to. And so I think, now I see what those employees were up to, right? They didn't need to know how to make lots of money. They didn't want to. They didn't want to do this. They wanted to, whatever it was, a tantrum or whatever it was. So I'm literally finding myself time after time in tantrum after tantrum of this and that and the other. And I think, I don't know what to do. Meaning, how do you do something that you don't want to do? And maybe you want to want it, but you don't. And and so this is a little bit of a maze that I've been exploring. And then the other one is eating my own words. That's one thing that I'm eating, is sorting these things through. And then I'm in this liminal state where about 20% of the time I see the way forward. I feel the golden glow. I feel the resonance. I see exactly how it is. And then I think, should I go for that, knowing that I'm going to trip up before noon? And that the more I chase that, the more I'll fall over things. Or should I just sit with this? That is theoretically possible. It is theoretically possible that I could be in that energy. And I have absolute belief, because, I look at someone like Tony Robbins, who truly is remarkable. He has his own, left and right hand deal, but what a performer, just how much stuff. And I don't admire Tony's marriage or family. And for my sensitive body, that type of life is, hellish. But nonetheless, I understand that if anyone holds singularity of purpose and positive energy and just keeps creating and doing stuff, that the kind of impact or life of Tony Robbins is available. And perhaps, let's just say, to be on the safe side, 15%. 15% of the time, I can see that path. And the way that I would probably align it is that there are these different cycles going on. There's my trauma cycle, there's my shame cycle, there's my do something and then rebel against it cycle, there's my start to do something and then be terrified I'm not going to do it perfectly cycle, and there's these different spinning cycles. And about 15% of the time, there's a little crack between all those cycles. And they each have their own rotation, and then I can see through it. Okay, I can see through it. They all line up. The crack in those patterns all lines up. The sun comes in, and there it is, right? But they keep spinning, and within a matter of minutes to hours, maybe the shame cycle is still open, but the next bit of the addiction cycle is still is closed. Like that one, I'm going to compulsively do something, and so. It's like, how much helplessness can I tolerate before that all lines up again, right? How much faith can I tolerate before that all lines up again? Because 85% of the time, those windows in the cycles are not lining up. I don't have a clear line of sight. I can't see myself separate from the ego. I can't connect with a high resonance. My body is shot, right? And even now, right now, the windows that are open, I've got some self energy open. So, maybe 30% of self energy. I have maybe 40% humor. I've got some presence open. My body is shot, right? I've been sitting here for 1 hour and 22 minutes. My back is beginning to hurt. The inflammation from too much sugar in my system feels painful. So at some point that rises and this window closes, where even if I could be present psychologically, I can't be present physically, right? And I think about this. I was thinking about this yesterday because it's part of the joke, that I've decided not to be a parent in order to not pass this on to another generation. And also in the acknowledgement that I have not yet encountered a support culture that would give me confidence that I wouldn't do that. Because when you're in an abuse culture, you get supported to abuse people. You don't get supported to break that pattern. And you can't grieve about it because everyone shuts you up. When you're in an abuse culture, everyone is terrified of grief because it reveals their own abuse, and that's normal. Just go be an abusive parent. Just shut up about it. Don't. Just go fuck and hurt your kids. Just don't talk about it. You become the enemy for trying to talk and bring light to the right thing, because nobody wants to look at it. They're not ready for it, right? And so I haven't found the group of people that are ahead of me in a stable, secure attachment around that. My father wasn't dumb. He probably could have tracked everything in this video perfectly. But he was also a regressed child, a regressed, traumatized child, probably stuck mostly around age 6. He listened to Lazaris and couldn't stop abusing us. So where would be the evidence to think that I could do that when I can't even get grown people to stop the dynamic? I mean, literally, I tried hiring and firing so many employees because I understood that the work did need to get done. And the employee set the terms of how they would be willing to get the work done. They all told me, so the employee tells me the conditions under which they are willing to do the work. And if I give them a list of things to do and they won't do it, and I make a video saying do this, this, and this, and they won't do it, and then I say study this and they won't do it, and I say get your fucking act together and they will do it. The contract is that I have to curse at them and then they'll do their work. If I'm polite, they will not. The contract is then I have to show up and supervise and say, no, you didn't do that. You said you did this. It isn't done. Do your fucking work. And then they'll do it, right? So that's their script. And they're very happy with it, but I'm not. Right? That's why I shut the business down. I couldn't break the script. I could not do it. I could not find one person for any amount of money who would break that script. And of course, that's my script, right? But I look around, it's like, I did try. I did this and this. I wrote this. I put this in the job description. I tried everything. I tried this. I tried that. I learned. And I finally just settled on the crew, after about 280 employees, I finally just settled on the crew that required the least amount of abuse, and maybe we could joke about it. Maybe I could tell them to get their fucking work done and then make a joke, and we could have both. And that was okay. They would tolerate having some fun. As long as it wasn't too much fun or they'd stop doing the work. It's not fun seeing, well, at least for me, it's not fun seeing these contracts. And mostly I feel like a victim in that because, as I say, I have the one employee who just agreed to do a great job and did a great job. Now, that's also interestingly, he's now the only person working for me because I shut the company down, which is, made tons of money. But at some point, I don't want more money. I want the freedom to be the person that I would like to be with people that don't demand abuse. And so on some level, I have enough experience. I've caught enough glimpses that I see the trajectory. I would not be surprised if within 10 years, I don't say, wow, I see exactly how I did all that. Meaning that it could have been done differently, but I wouldn't do the thing that would allow it to be done differently. And this is also, back to that kind of shaky thing, I would say the most politically incorrect thing in my own story is this. I have done certain Lazaris meditations in the last year that were absolutely ecstatic. And it's just too much. There's just too much ecstasy. And so I shuffle around, do this and that, and pretty soon I've got it down to nothing. Now, we have hedonic adaptation on the one hand. That's certainly a variable that tends to be not personality driven. That's just happens. But nonetheless, that's been a bit of a mind fuck. This feels absolutely ecstatic. I can't take it anymore. Yeah, that's been one politically incorrect thing. So this is going back towards Lazaris, right? Lazaris saying it's much easier to succeed than it is to fail. It may be that I'm working not to feel that ecstatic. Another series of things. For example, the other day, I had to break my sleep routine to get up early to go look for another hotel. And I was not amused, and I was half asleep. And I found myself flooded with ecstatic joy. And I realized that the only way the joy could get in was that I didn't have the energy to establish the pattern that normally kept it out. I recognized it. It's like, wow, this joy is waiting a few feet beneath the surface, and I'm staying a few feet above the surface 99.9% of the time. And I thought, but just 2 feet below, there's all this joy. I'm doing this like a few days a year, and it's often with this sleep thing, which actually reminds me of Byron Katie's story when she was flooded with joy when a cockroach crawled over her leg in a mental institution, where she saw the light, right? Because her mind woke up, herself woke up before the ego's machinery kicked in, and she was just flooded with ecstatic joy. And for her, it didn't go back. But for me, when I'm in these half-asleep places and it flips and I'm in complete and utter joy, two things happen. The first thing is, I'm not going to let this last. I better enjoy this while I can, because I already know where this goes. This is not going to be permitted. And so who is doing the permitting and all of that? That's not conscious, meaning I'm not aware of how I do all that orchestration. But nonetheless, if all it takes to feel ecstatic joy is to be so asleep that I can't figure out how to ward off joy, So I had my 4 hours of joy in recent history because I didn't have any energy to do anything to stop it or whatever it was. And I tried to copy it the next day, finished, right? Because, and so this kind of ties in with that whole narrative that, you're working really hard to be miserable. I'm working really hard to be miserable, and otherwise, ecstatic joy. So it's a politically inconvenient narrative because the rest of the time I'm working my ass off to get crumbs and going backwards. It's like I travel here and then do this and then do that so that I can feel great, and then I feel tired. And then it's like I feel worse because I did all that stuff to feel great, right? And that's a lot of that's my politically correct narrative. I'm a victim. I'm a helpless pawn in the degrading machinery of modern life. It's terrible, right? The world's getting worse. So the machine, So that all makes sense, and that's politically correct. Oh yes, it's getting tough these days. I mean, it's completely verified. But ecstatic joy because I didn't get enough sleep. Anyway, I've had a few of those types of experiences. I had another one in Vietnam where I woke up because this wretched guest next door, back 5 a.m. in the morning, whatever, no soundproofing. That's the normal thing. Oh, well, I might as well get up. I go out on the balcony, ecstatic joy. I'm like, maybe I need to be woken up at 4 and 5 a.m. more. But I know enough about this territory to know that, one, it has its own law, and two, it is not going to be tricked reliably, meaning I could be woken up multiple times in a row and just feel irritable as usual. It's just sometimes there's a grace, there's a blessing, and I feel fantastic. Truly transcendent. And yeah, I feel at those times like I don't care where I live, how much money I've got, who I'm with. If I can hold this state, I'm massively successful. Then it passes. I think I had roughly 3 hours on each day. So 6 hours of joy in the past 6 months. So 1 hour per month is the current allotted dose of the ego regulators. Because joy is incredibly corrosive. I mean, you can't maintain a stable identity and feel ecstasy. It's the whole point. And so it's got to be taken down a notch. Yeah, so that's kind of I think the big themes. I've noticed that on the past few days, I cannot tolerate a Lazaris meditation. All I have to do is press a Lazaris meditation on, and first of all, I have to move around. Sometimes I have to get up immediately. And then I've got to ruminate around something or other that's stressful. I've got to go do something, right? So 0 tolerance for Lazaris meditations last few days, including this morning. So how I'm working with that is I'm just letting myself do my compulsive things while the Lazaris meditation plays, and I compulsively avoid paying any attention to it. And the best thing I can do is just be amused by that. Like, okay, we're going to start the Lazaris meditation. Up! We've got to do push-ups. We've got to do push-ups. Got to. Oh, and there was that email, and this and this. All right, fine. Go do the push-ups. Finally, the Lazaris meditation is finished. I don't have to do more push-ups. It's wonderful. And oh gosh, I'm going to do another one, right? And so I'm on the fence about how to respond to this type of thing. On the surface, fine. You don't want to do Lazaris meditation. Who's forcing you? Don't do them. And so there's that pattern, right? But that goes too far at some point, right? At some point, I lose all track of time. I don't have any routine. I don't do any meditation. I don't have any diet. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And then I just feel shitty and ungrounded 24/7. And I think, this isn't working. And then I think, okay, what's a structure? What am I going to do? And then, I can barely finish forming some structure, some plan, some routine before I want to do something else, as is evidenced by this recording. The reason I'm making this recording is because I sat down at my laptop to do something else. That's basically how it works. And if I had sat down to make this recording, I would instead have an urgent clarity that I needed to do something else. So, is that good? Is it bad? It's just how it works. And so I'm doing that, and I'm kind of curious to see where it's going. Because, I have 4 books that are 75% written. Why? As soon as I get the book 75% written, I start thinking about how publishing this book could cause me some stress or other. Then I am not sure, and then this and that, and then I think, and then I think, oh, here's another book, and I write 75% of that book, and then I think, maybe I'd get some flack from this or that, or I just don't know if it will result in more of the feeling that I want to create, and so then I write another book. And so I'm 4 books in, 75% done to 80% done. I don't want to publish any of them because it's so nice not being in the spotlight or have to think of myself objectively. It's just so nice. However, I have seemingly been doing some good processing and synthesis writing the books. So I'm open to the idea that these books were not actually for publishing. They were to help me ground and understand my life in more detail, in which case then maybe I'll write 6 books and not finish editing any of them. But that also feels like that sometimes I just get mad that this is how I run a life. Do something so that I'll be motivated to do something else. Write a new book to avoid publishing the last book. Do a Lazaris meditation so that I'll do push-ups. I mean, this is insane. It's utterly insane. So, what to do about it, right? I mean, it's absolute absurdity on some level, but then on another level, it just does its thing, and so so that's kind of my current assessment of my relationship with myself and Lazaris at the moment. And back to the theme of escape from freedom, with Erich Fromm, it's like, boy, would I love somebody to tell me what to do that I looked at and realized was much better at any of this than I was, right? Because there are people, and plenty of gurus and all that will tell you what to do. But it's not clear a lot of the time that there's two parts of that. It's not clear when I feel the rebellion against that, on some level I trust that rebellion and that's healthy. And a lot of what I've realized, and there's a little grief in this, is that in these early traumatic memories, there are two polarities. There's the overwhelmed innocence of a traumatized child in terror and helplessness. And there's a raging, punishing parent. And those energies are so intense and so overwhelming helplessness, overwhelming rage, that I can't get near either one and find myself in the moment there. And so I just swing back and forth between, overwhelming helplessness and rage and this. And it's like I live my life on some level in those two polarities, but neither of them are myself. Neither of them are an enjoyable state of being, because there wasn't that much of a nurturing parent that was present. There was never a present parent, present adult. And there wasn't much of a nurturing grown-up. There was just these extremes. And so, so that's, we'll see how it emerges in coming years. But I'm still just grasping how hot and how cold those energies are, how intense and how vulnerable those energies are. And how to sit with them, and how to be with either one of those energies without becoming it or being overwhelmed by it. So there we have it.